Hello, fellow translators. Some of you might remember this. I posted it up on the blog and I think on LinkedIn as well. But it's an example of ChatGPT and how, if you don't know what you're doing with ChatGPT, it can be bad. Now, just quickly, I said translate this into English. Dobbiamo aderire agli statuti, right? And it said we must adhere to the statutes. Now, technically, sort of, this could be right, except it's not, because this is quite obviously in a legal context, and so it should have different wording. So here I added, "You are a legal translator. Now translate it," and it said we must comply with the bylaws. And that's correct. I just wanted to bring this up because I think it's a super important point right now. It's just very timely. These are changes that are going on right now. And I'm seeing some of the people that are sort of at the forefront of this stuff. And I just think the stuff that's going on and that they're doing is super interesting for translators, or could be dangerous in the hands of non-translators. But let's get into it. In fact, let's recreate this. Why not? So we go to ChatGPT, and here it says below, ChatGPT can make mistakes. Even they say it. Now, translate this into English. Dobbiamo aderire agli statuti. Oops, statuti, ecco. And then we go here. We must adhere to the statutes. Well, again, that's correct, but it's not technically correct because this is obviously a legal translation. So let's specify you are a legal translator. Now translate it. And let's see what happens. We must comply with the bylaws. And that is correct. Now, I should specify here, this is correct in the US. In the UK, it would probably be we must comply with the Articles of Association, just because that is the term they would use. But regardless, this shows that if you know what you're doing with ChatGPT, you can do interesting stuff, and this can be a good tool. But if you don't know what you're doing, you're going to get the wrong answer, and so that's why it's much better left in the hands of professionals, professional translators who actually know what they're doing, know what to look for, etc., etc. But you can take this further. Lately, I've been using Perplexity, and with Perplexity, an interesting thing you can do is create these spaces. So let me show you this space that I have here: legal translations in English, and I created these custom instructions. First of all, I should say thank you very much to Ken Liu. I will link to his bio down below because he's the one who gave me the first code that I've been working off of to do this. Since then, I've been tweaking it. I actually simplified it because his was written too complicated even for me. But I've been working on this code, and I think it's quite interesting because what it does is it takes any text and it does a pre-translation analysis, and I won't go through everything in detail, but what it spits out is a draft translation, and then it verifies its translation on the through the internet, looking at various websites, and tries to improve upon it, and then it gives you the final output. So it has draft translation and final translation that it will show. And again, this is for legal translation. And another thing that I have it do is assess the certainty of the correctness in translation, how certain it is that it did a good job, and select terminology with the highest level of uncertainty and create a table with the following three columns: the source language term, the target language term, and the reason for the uncertainty. So here, I'll show you how that works in action. So the easiest way would just be to do the same thing first. So as you can see, it's scouring the internet, looking at websites. And in fact, I asked it to list the steps that it takes. And so here it gives you the whole analysis, source text complexity, blah, 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 blah. And a draft translation, we must adhere to the bylaws. The final translation, we must comply with the bylaws. And so it actually was closer to the correct thing at first. And then it gives you the changes made. It gives you translation notes and the certainty table, which here, statuti, bylaws, articles of association. As I mentioned, bylaws can be articles of association. Both terms are in English corporate law, with bylaws being more common in US and articles of association in UK English. So this actually has all the information you need. And so I thought this was quite interesting. And once again, I did this by inserting this code. Let me show it to you quickly because it's under spaces and here. And so here I'm using Claude. I should specify because you can use various different AI models. I like this one. ChatGPT 4.0 was pretty good as well. And Grok 2 started off well, but then it got really weird, so probably not. Now, I'm using the paid version of Perplexity, but I'm pretty sure you could do this with the free version of ChatGPT or Perplexity. In fact, let me try that. I'm going to take all these instructions, copy them, and then I'm going to do something interesting. Okay, so what we do here is we paste the instructions. Now, anyway, for now we'll just do this because there are other variations where you can just paste them and then later do whatever you want as a separate thing. But there are a couple tweaks I want to make to this because ChatGPT cannot search the internet, for these legal resources that I put and stuff like that. But I think if I just change this to you are a legal translator, it should be fine. And I know I'm making it overly complicated. We saw before that it can work, but there you go. Translate the following into English. And let's see what happens. Now this is, yeah, draft translation was correct, and no changes were made. Adheridas comply with statutis translated bylaws. No further cultural adaptations needed as the context is universally understood, certainly level high. Yeah, so that, and again, this is overly simplistic because we saw that it worked earlier. I wanted to give a whole contract and kind of go through it step by step, but that'll make this video too long. Hopefully this gives an idea as to what you can do, because even if it is correct, at least it gives a bunch of notes. And even with the free version, it gives you all its steps that it takes, and it gives you a bunch of notes. And I think this is very useful for translators, especially when translators are using machine translation or AI. They don't get to see the steps. And that's why I always say this machine translation, post editing, people say even for AI, which is not machine translation, they call it MTP still. It's not really editing, it's quality control because you're working after a computer program, and so but this allows you to actually do more editing, and so I think it's a lot more useful for us as translators. What I'd like to do is maybe go through a session like this. I'm still figuring it out, so I might just do it for the members and then see if anyone, so we can exchange notes and kind of see how it goes. I think that would be quite interesting. Another thing, what I'd eventually like to do, and I think will be super cool, will be to come up with customized instructions here for each person. So you, depending on your CV, depending on your specialization, language combinations, and the type of translations you work on. For example, if you have specific clients and all that, you can upload certain glossaries to it as well, and that way you can have your own customized instructions here. And what you do is you just keep these instructions on a notepad, and every time you want to work on their translation, you just paste the instructions here and then work on it. Another thing you can do, like I mentioned earlier, you paste the instructions and just hit return, and it says, got it, I'm ready to follow this structured process. So now, from now on, under this thread, you can do any translations you want, and it should continuously follow the instructions up here. And you just save these once again on a notepad. I would save one for each type of specialization and language combination, or if you have clients with specific glossaries and stuff like that, then you can do that. In fact, I'm working on creating my own glossary that I want to upload, and for Italian legal stuff, but for Swiss Italian legal terms as well, which I've been collecting over the years because that's what I've been working on, and they have different terminology than Italian ones, and I think it probably doesn't exist yet, something that can be used by AI Anyway, that's it for now. Please let me know if you find this interesting, if you want to work on something similar, or if you'd like me to work on creating a customized one for you and I can try it out a couple times and see if it works. Please let me know your thoughts, and we can talk again next time. Okay, thanks. Bye. Savedum.